the brain is an exceptionally powerful tool in the way we create our lives. It ties directly into how our emotions, behaviors, and outer experiences come to be. Because of how powerful it is, it's important to have a good understanding of its capabilities and knowledge of how it interconnects with the way in which we create our individual realities. If we truly want to begin a transformation within ourselves, and subsequently our external reality, it's vital to comprehend that the different areas of the brain are what collectively portray to us our perception of reality on an individual basis. With the desire of a new reality or new situations, any negative patterns within the brain must be altered for successful and lasting results. You may already know that the most primal portion of our mind is the subconscious. It's an extremely significant piece to consider when making the decision to reshape reality. Its sole function is to be a huge repository of information, feelings, memories, and behaviors. The data it stores has been received at one time or another via the conscious mind and feeling states, with the most powerful messages being picked up in our early childhood. Very much like a video recorder and never sleeping, it captures all experiences we've ever had or will have and consistently absorbs external messages. Therefore, thoughts and manners of conducting ourselves are deep-rooted. In our adult lives, we enact that learning in an automatic fashion because the subconscious mind stores our experiences for later retrieval and uses that information as a point of reference. Very rarely can anyone say that they consciously choose their emotional responses to life's everyday interactions. Our subconscious brain recognizes stimuli in our external environment and very quickly finds any information relating to what is happening by going through the files it has created from previous experience. By filtering back through our conscious mind almost instantaneously, it prompts us on how to respond in an automatic way and causes mechanical behaviors to occur in our emotional and physical state within fractions of a second. This is the source of all of our impassioned reactions and internal feelings produced within our bodies. And by coming into alliance with this power, we can alter the information it has to work with for desirable outcomes. This portion of the brain is also the source of all desires, plans, flashes of insight, and inspiration. The extraordinary learning capacity and storage area it contains is monumental and without boundaries. It's also the origin of all invention and innovation, and it can bring us information we may never have thought possible. Working for us as a close companion to ensure our survival, it enjoys cooperating as our friend, and it will allow us to delicately mold it for our benefit. However, if it's not monitored closely, it will run on its purely reactionary responses developed in early childhood, which can be detrimental to a person's entire existence. By basing an inaccurate analysis of a situation on how it relates to previously stored information, it has the strength to make or break the life a person lives. This means there are times when adjustments are required in its incorrect commands regarding what is taking place externally, and we have the advantage of being able to consciously and subtly guide it for benefit. In turn, it will do the same for us. This means we have an immense power at our disposal and simply need to take ownership of it if we want to make alterations in our life and the reality that we experience. At a deep-seated level, every one of us automatically knows how to feel based on what has been formerly experienced and filed away. So it's easy to anticipate a certain outcome based on the memories or events accumulated in the subconscious mind from the past. But with analytical uncertainty, not all of this may be something that we care to relive. All the same, unless negative information is revised, any negative responses and feelings will, without doubt, continue. Each person's uniquely designed subconscious arrangements began directly from infancy. As the child you once were, with a brain not fully developed, it may have been very difficult to contextualize what was actually happening in any situation. In other words, the meaning could have easily been misconstrued and impressed the subconscious mind with incorrect information. And when this happens, it'll generally last a lifetime if not corrected. By design, the brain begins absorbing and collecting information instantaneously when we come into this world. This is crucial to adapt to a new habitat in a way that ensures our existence continues. But our literal subconscious mind does not make a determination concerning how valid data or information is. Accepting as fact whatever the conscious mind and feelings send to it as fact, it is designed to capture whatever evidence it's given so the information can be accessed for later use. Unlike the conscious mind, which can evaluate and make a determination or judgment concerning if the data it analyzes has any meaning or truth to it, the subconscious has no logical or rational reasoning capability whatsoever. It has a very specific job to do, and it doesn't discern whether it's right or wrong in the information that it's feeding back to us. The power infused in it is immensely significant to our lives, and this is why taming your subconscious to work in your favor is unavoidable if you choose to have a life that you desire. In order to make adjustments, the conscious mind must step in to make a decision as to whether something is true or not. This is so the primal portion of our mind does not try to override and make its own validation. It's as simple as evaluating any circumstance and understanding that as you do, you can make a decision in that moment to assign a specific meaning to what is happening. Here's how the subconscious mind learns a new autopilot program. We can relate the autopilot mode of our brains to the way in which we learn to drive a vehicle. If you've never driven a vehicle, you can also relate it to how you learned how to ride a bike. When we learn how to drive, it first takes concentration in the form of talking to ourselves to remember all of the things required to make the car go in the manner designed. If you can remember when you first learned to drive a car, you probably realized early on that it took deliberate and conscious attention to push the gas pedal in just the right manner so as not to go too fast or too slow. Attentiveness was required to stay within the lines of the road and closely monitor other vehicles. It likely took you a multitude of times to remember to use all of your signals correctly. Practice took place to be observant of all of the street signs and the lights. Your awareness towards all of your mirrors was more prevalent. In order to operate the machine efficiently, you would have been conscientious of every muscle movement in your body. Being that it's vital to drive safely, your consciousness would have been on heightened alert to make sure it was watchful of every sight and sound impacting your next maneuver. Once becoming proficient in driving, your brain gradually let loose of the perceptiveness it once required to be a competent and skillful driver. In fact, for most of us, there have been times when we're driving down the road, so enthralled in other thoughts, that we eventually realize we've gone a mile, or even several miles, without conscious regard to what our brains had automatically learned to do. Have you ever been hypnotized by driving, where you lose all concept of the time passing you because your mind was completely somewhere else? This is the autopilot mode. It's exactly what happens to us in other areas of our lives, where our subconscious thoughts reveal we don't need to be conscious of them anymore. In other words, this system can continue to perform a skill it's developed without our being cognizant of it, and it does this all day, every day, with a multitude of different tasks. Other than our survival instincts, this is initially accomplished through application, and it becomes ingrained with repetition. In the example of learning how to drive, you used the early stages of this learning process to tell yourself to be aware of how you were driving with diligence. Practice and repetition made it automatic. Internal chatter at the time may have said something to the effect of, watch the road, check your mirrors, and don't push the gas pedal too hard. The words used would have become duplicated to the point that your brain responded in a way as to say, okay, I know what to do now. This is exactly how we use our conscious mind as the means by which the subconscious mind receives and reserves information. If we choose to make our conscious minds dominant, shifts in belief systems can happen at a gradual pace and over time, or in a dramatic flash of new insight. Deliberately monitoring what is now acceptable as fact and what isn't is the first step in the building blocks to creating reality intentionally. Through examining any given circumstance, consciousness can determine its grasp of that situation and communicate with the brain to decide the necessary action to take. This puts the conscious mind in charge of allowing or disallowing and transporting the data it interprets into the data storage warehouse of the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the area that can add that type of updated data to the subconscious storehouse for advancements in the overall system. It has the ability to overwrite old data stored in the subconscious mind. It's also the area we have the ability to rely on and use most in our physical state. So this becomes merely a skill to master once the understanding is there. And consistent monitoring is key to success. With new information, our subconscious is allowed the probability to go to work to attract, create, or bring into our physical world what we come to know as our truth or reality based on advanced belief systems. Regardless of which of the two minds is allowed to be in command, it will always result in the kind and quality of day-to-day life experiences and stories we individually have for ourselves. Use the comparison of learning to drive a car. Recall all of the details that took place with the education involved. To become proficient enough that the brain went into autopilot mode, there was a lot of practice. We can also request our brains to become accomplished in autopilot mode for other constructive and favorable outcomes. In fact, for everything we really want. If you had to drive a car every day in the same conscious manner you did when you first discovered how to, it would make driving a task that takes a great deal of effort. But through this process, most of us experience ease in driving because of the way our mind takes over for us. And we're fortunate that this happens, because we can create new patterns that work on autopilot for us in this same manner, in ways that are favorable to our reality. Whatever we deposit into the financial institution of our intellect, we will have for later retrieval. The only thing to withdraw when we go to the bank in our mind is what we put in there. By using our conscious minds to make more positive and progressive deposits into our subconscious minds, we are given the choice to withdraw more beneficial circumstances of our choosing.